Hey everybody, this is Perch, and you know how on this channel I talk about, many of the problems are a combination of a lot of elements. It's not usually one thing; it's a lot of things that kind of all, combine to make one cluster of issues. Well, this is kind of on display in a recent kind of thread slash admission. No, this isn't Twitter drama stuff. It was described on Twitter, but the Twitter has actually nothing to do with it, blessedly. Sorry, there's a lot of fallout that was definitely Twitter related, and we're not going to get into any of that. I'm not covering any of that nonsense. But this is Greg Smallwood. So, Greg Smallwood, an artist who had art in Electra Black, White, and Blood issue 2. Yes, the name is stupid. That Black, White, and Blood is a dumb name for a book, but whatever. We're long past that. So, what was the issue that Greg Smallwood, artist on the book, what was the issue that Greg Smallwood had? Well, as he points out with illustration, he did some art, and you may have seen this. You're probably already aware of this story, but this is the narrative that we're going to go with. Greg did some artwork and of a Asian character. So basically, Electra is in Asia, fighting demons and ninjas, whatever she is doing. And Smallwood drew some Asian characters. Again, not huge picture. Just it was in Asia. There's Asian characters. Okay, and the Marvel bullpen, the Marvel editorial, quote unquote, fixed his art to make it less problematic. So basically, as Smallwood describes, 2 months after turning in finished pages, he was informed by his editor that Marvel's standards and practices, which is a group we don't hear a lot of. I've mentioned it a few times, and some people in the comments have told me that group doesn't actually exist. Okay, but it does. Standards and practices flagged the art for being kind of racially insensitive and suggested several panels be redrawn with intolerance for better representation of Asian characters. And basically, they were talking about the eyes, that the eyes, Smallwood drew stylistically some eyes. The best way you're seeing it on the screen, the best way to describe it is like a line and a dot, and just all in black ink. And what Marvel, the editorial did was they went in and fixed the art to create pupils, basically put white in the eyes to create a more distinct eye shape. Um, you would have to be super, super high to look at Smallwood's art and say, "Oh, wow, he's making a racist caricature of an Asian person." If you're confused about what that looks like, you can look at some of the like Superman, fights in World War II, and you could see what that artwork looks like. There's plenty of that if you go, Superman World War II, you'll see plenty of examples of what racist caricatures look like. Generally, giant teeth, super squinty eyes, and just and clothing and hair and everything else. In this instance, no one in their right mind would look at this and say, this is a racist caricature. It looks like a stylized version of an Asian person drawn in a comic that's only including the colors black, white, and red, which again is stupid, but okay. It looks pretty. I think it's good looking art. So they go and redraw, and he shows several examples of this. There's also a little bit where one of the characters was nude, but the hair was over the breast, but you could kind of see the shape of a nipple. And Marvel drew on some clothes, like a little swimsuit, on this demon, which that just looks absurd. That's a whole other issue. That has nothing to do with any of the rest of all this. That's just insanity. What's going on there? But it is quite peculiar that well anyway that they chose to do this because the quote unquote fixed art where they put in the pupil looks bizarre to the point of it's either like it either looks very, very strange in the context of the other art. It has the net effect of making all the Asian characters that they show look weird, look different from the others. And if anything, if you're worrying about this for racial sensitivity, the art changes that they made look infinitely worse racially than what was just there in the first place. That's what happened. Uh, so why are there a number of pieces here? Well, number one, it's indicative of, and the thread, by the way, goes on to describe that they get back to Greg. He says, "Okay, I'll look at the art. I'd like to fix my own art." They proceed to let him do that, but then ignore what he hands in and do their own version anyway. And like so that part of this thing is the overall just cluster that is editorial. And I can't stress this enough. People talk about various shenanigans and stupidity that Marvel does, or DC or whoever. Bad communication, just bad at their job, is a huge, huge factor in almost all the things that go on. And so a big portion of this is just people who are not good at their job, not communicating, not listening to the artist. When the artist turns something in, ignoring it and doing something else anyway. And then a representative from Marvel showed up in Smallwood's thread and said, "Oh yeah, this shouldn't have happened this way. Whoops." And it's like, you guys look like incompetent fools. So there's that whole aspect of it, which cannot be understated. The incompetent dumbassery of the whole thing. Then there's the second layer, which is the standards and practices. This desire, this strive to be racially sensitive with the art is causing people to make really profoundly weird choices. Choices where, with a straight face, someone elected to alter the art, make these changes, do these things, and come up with a far worse piece in the end than what was originally there. Again, what was originally there was not a problem at all. It was fine the way it was. But in this new style, just again, in the desire to be non-racist, winds up creating this weird art style that you could actually take a swing at calling racist, because it basically set this character apart from all the other characters in the book. It basically made this one character look goofy and weird. And the whole point of, if you're worried about art being racist, one of the things you look for is it's identifying a certain nationality or a certain race and drawing them in a different way. And by making these changes, they accomplished exactly what they were trying to avoid. So well done. And then on top of all that, there's the overall just what the hell of this entire process. Not only is it a bad communication, not only is it the dangers of a standards and practices group trying not to be racist, making things more racist. This is a black eye. I mean, what is this thing on right now? Smallwood's tweet of a character in Elektra Black, White, and Blood is sitting at 26.4 thousand likes and more than 4,000 retweets and people engaging with this. And I will tell you, if you look through the thread, I'm sure somewhere in there, nobody in this thing is saying, "Well, you're a jerk, Greg Smallwood." Everybody is saying, "This is crap." Now, here's where it gets interesting. People who are replying, like Mitch Gerards and there's Alex DeCampi and others, who are like, "This is really offensive. Why would they change art? You shouldn't be gatekeeping art like this." It's like, all right, I just got to say, y'all realize, see, there's that y'all, it's a Texas influence. Y'all realize that for the last 5 years, screeching on Twitter about racism and bad think and bad people in comics has created this exact situation. You realize the people who talk about this being super offensive, you realize you created this. You helped create this. I have a really hard time, based on looking at comic art in the 80s and in the 90s, I mean, let alone the older times, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, where people would draw Asian characters looking like Asian people, You look at look at the Ultimates, Brian Hitch drawing different nationalities, all different nationalities, and drawing them, looking like their nationality, looking like their race correctly. That stuff went right through. But given what we see with Smallwood here, if if that work was done today, some jackass would have gone in there over Brian Hitch's art and drawn in little white pupils on the Asian characters so they didn't look too Asian when they are Asian. I mean, you're getting all this? Like, the reason why they're doing this now, the reason why this is occurring, is because of you jackasses on Twitter who are now expressing your dislike for this horrible butchered art. The applause needs to go to Greg Smallwood, who did a good job, effective job of laying out the case of here's the before, here's the after of what they did to the art to say, doesn't this look stupid? And it does look stupid. And I in the grand scheme of things, of course, there's far worse sins going on in comic books than this, but it is stupid. And I appreciate that Smallwood brought it to everybody's attention and pointed out how dumb this all is. But again, the reason why they did this, the reason why all of this occurred, is because we now live in a crazy time where people are so terrified that somebody on Twitter will object to a panel in a comic book being racist, that there is a standards and practices office within Marvel now checking all of this stuff to make sure it checks out. You weirdos have created this situation. When I say you weirdos, I mean some of the people replying to thread, not Smallwood, but some of the other people who have made it their personal life mission to, call out anything that vaguely smells like something they could get pissed off about. That behavior has created an office within Marvel to check panels of artwork and say, that Asian character looks too Asian. Better draw some, put some white marks on the eyes, or somebody will get mad. And by the way, then that goes downstream to the cluster that is Editorial, that botches the conversation with the artist, and just dumb, dumb. I mean, look at somebody. Look, here's Eric Larson responding to this. I guess I am getting a little bit into the Twitter drama. Eric Larson saying, unfortunately, this is par for the course when it comes for work for hire. Every artist I know has had their work tampered with. They'll redraw work by Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby. Nobody is safe. That's one of the many reasons Image Comics came into existence. Well, enjoy your Image Comics for the moment, because your new union is going to gatekeep this stuff. You do realize that's what's coming, right? I mean, ugh. Gross. Just what is even going on? When you're trying to solve a problem, you have to go to the root of it. You need to go and you really need to look at, all right, what are the symptoms here? How did this patient get sick? Where did this go wrong? In this case, what went wrong is that there has been a push within comics to be hypersensitive to so much that now the big publishers are stepping in, and they are terrified of anything that might vaguely generate a bad response. And so they are redrawing panels in their stupid, dumbass way to create worse art, worse results. And that's where we've all landed. Seriously. I know there's going to be somebody who's like, oh, Perch is gaslighting. No, he is not. You're not using that word correctly, dummy. What has gone on here is exactly a result of just this obsessiveness about worrying about being canceled, about worrying about somebody taking offense, that now we're getting this kind of result. This is the dumb result of a dumb action. Definitely. I think, if you want true art, if you want this stuff to come through, you're going to need to let artists and writers, everybody involved, you're going to need to let them make mistakes. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking Cameron Stewart, dating underage girl mistakes. I'm not talking about that kind of mistake. I'm talking about, Rick Remender does a story where the Falcon sleeps with a girl who is clearly of age, but some weirdo decides to go on Twitter and claim that the girl, because she was biologically aged up due to, just because because there's some weird science involved, maybe the girl is underage and Rick Remender is pushing for statutory rape. That kind of reaction has led to this result. It's that stuff. It's, hey, Raphael Albuquerque did a cover where Batgirl is being terrorized by the Joker in reference to the Killing Joke, and this is offensive, so we need to censor that cover because it just feels wrong somehow. That stuff has led to this result. You have gotten involved in silly, nonsense, and you have created a nonsense result. No. Did you cut it off the pass? No, this isn't like, Richard Meyer has made some videos that piss people off. I'm not saying that. That's not a cause and effect. Completely different topic. I'm saying when you gatekeep art because you're offended, but what you really want to do is get a bunch of attention on social media, and it's time for people to just come clean and cop to it. That's what you're really after. Everybody wants the dopamine hit of the likes and the retweets. They want attention. That's why Mags posts about Kurt Cobain is trans because he was in a dress during one of the photo shoots for Nirvana. It's a desire to get attention. It's not a desire to set some historical record correct on Kurt Cobain. It's a desire for attention. The people who went all in on saying, Batgirl looks like she's in a compromising position and this is bad somehow, on a variant cover of Batgirl, that was to get attention. It was to get people to all go like, oh yes, I am also offended, and get a bunch of people riled up. That's why they did it. The publishers are now freaked out about that response. They're putting these offices in place to look at this art, and the conclusion to this story is now we're going to draw little white pupils on the eyes because the character looks too Asian. And that's how we got here. I don't know. Feel free to disagree, but it's an interesting story. It's interesting to see. It's cool that Smallwood was able to lay out his case very eloquently, very accurately, put picture examples. It's bringing to light the stupidity of all this. I don't know how many people will connect the dots to say, hey, your dumbass outrage on social media creates this effect. But, I won't hold my breath. But that is exactly the cause and effect. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.